Bass Case Season 2, Episode 23, Whole-Half Scale, Part 3, Diminished Scales. I mean, like I've mentioned, they function differently than other scales and modes. You know, in that whole quote, there's only 3 of them. I mean, like I've mentioned, too, that took me a while to figure out. You know, you move one up in a minor third, it's the same thing. That's nice. I mean, that half-whole lick, number 1, from when I first started this whole series. C half-whole lick, number 1. Then I played the same pattern on E, starting on E flat, then on F sharp, and then on A, and it's all 4 of those, but they're the same thing. And I can play them all on a C7 flat 9 dominant chord. And each one of those, the E flat one, the G flat, F sharp one, and the A, they all sound slightly different because the notes are reeling out differently in a different form or different sequence every time. Now think about it. Modes do that in their own way. Let's say I've got a D minor 7 chord. Okay, I could play D Dorian, but if I played C major ideas over it, if I played C major scale over a D minor 7 chord, I'm basically starting on the 7th of D minor. It's the same thing. I'm resolving the scale to the 7th of D minor, that's C. And it's the same with the half whole and the whole half. And each of the 4 of that whole half lick, C, when I begin it on C, when I begin it on E flat, when I begin it on F sharp, G flat, or when I begin it on A, they're all resolving to different notes. And then the last episode, I talked about using whole half over dominant chords and how I didn't look at the root of the chord to start the scale. I looked at the third. And if you remember from that episode last time, I used the E7 flat 9 as an example. So if I had an E7 flat 9 chord, I'm not going to play E whole half diminished scale or E whole half diminished idea. I'm going to look at the chord, the E7 flat 9, and take the third of that, which is G sharp. And that's the G sharp whole half diminished scale, or my G sharp whole half diminished ideas. Or go up a minor third to B, or go up a minor third to D, or another minor third up to F. And I don't know if I mentioned that last time, mostly because of the sheer amount of information I'm giving. But those are all chord tones of E7 flat 9. That third is the G sharp. Moving up in a minor third, we start on B, and that's the 5th, the E7. Moving that B up to a minor third, that's a D, that's the 7th of E7, and then one more minor third, the F, the flat 9. So there's a lot to play with, and it's almost mathematical. Maybe, in fact, it is mathematical. But let me shift away a little bit. And this is why spelling chords is so important to musicians. You know, you still got to go back to that. If you don't know how to spell an E7 flat 9 chord, and I'm giving you this information, you're going to have to either write it down on the lead sheet, on the fake book sheet, or you're going to have to have some sort of pneumatic or mnemonic device to help you remember it. But the spelling of the chords is it. Without it, you're lost. Without the ability to spell chords quickly, you're stuck using the root as your anchor for everything. So you're way ahead of the game if you can spell chords, especially the ones that you deal with a lot. Like altered dominant chords, this is the aforementioned dominant 7 with flat 9. Okay, so spell chords, spell triads. I was teaching music theory and telling my students that triads, you know, I make them say it's the building blocks of music. And if you can spell triads, I mean, think about what you can do with triads as a bass player. I mean, if I see a C minor chord and I know the triad is C, E flat, G. There's the beginning of my bass line. There's the beginning of my bass solo. There's the beginning of my melody, right? My theory class students hear it so much their ears probably hurt. Now, there's one more trick, and I've already kind of alluded to it. But when I teach this stuff in oscillation, not mention using the third or fifth or seventh to start the line, it seems to hang on some of my students better. Let's say we got a G7 flat 9 chord you're soloing over. G7 flat 9, it's the 8th bar of Sugar by Stanley Turrentine. It's the 10th bar of a C minor blues. It's bar 6 and 14 of Blue Bossa, and so on. So my first finger is on the note G, and I'm going to move my first finger up a fret, a half step, and play the whole half scale starting on G sharp. Okay, so here it is. Here's whole half lick number 1. Okay, now that's actually a line Joe Henderson played on the tune Idle Moments on the Grant Green album by the same name. I transcribed it years ago. And for those not to know, Joe Henderson was a tenor saxophonist. But the line fits beautifully on electric bass. And I don't know if that's me or what, but tenor lines in general fit very well on electric bass. I think it's the registers real close. So that is your whole half lick number 1, to do what you will with it. And it fits on electric bass pretty nicely. Now, I think that's all I'm going to do for diminished scales for now. The last few episodes have been a lot of information, but let me add on. I think this is highly personalized. You don't have to learn to drop diminished lines in all the places I've mentioned in these episodes. You definitely want to explore them. But you might prefer half whole lines over whole half. I certainly do. I use those more. And if you just like the way that sounds, you like the way it feels on your instrument, then totally immerse yourself into playing those, and don't think that you're missing out or that you're losing something because, well, wait a second, I haven't really worked on my whole half. Don't worry about it. You might just take the half whole diminished scale and drop them on the root of the dominant 7 flat 9 chord. I think that's important to take it to its kind of most basic experience. Now, here's some lecture. We get caught up sometimes in trying to learn everything, and then we touch on it superficially. And that's not going to have the same impact on our playing. And Kenny Werner said something to that effect in his Effortless Mastery. That's podcast episodes 13, 14, and 15 from the first season where I explored his book. We need to ingrain ideas so deeply that they come out naturally, and then ingrain some more ideas after that. But you got to ingrain the first one or the first batch. And the only way to do that is to play them a lot. Don't listen to those voices in your head telling you that you're lame because you're playing the same ideas. Those are the ones that sound good. So you need to build on those. If you have questions, email me, phil@basscase.co. I'll talk to you soon.